Oh my god. Yeah, I'm still alive. Unfortunately for you, I guess. But yeah, I figured I would continue to just, you know, some of the stuff that during the year that I wrote that I felt was really fun, or I really enjoyed, like, or like I liked the process of it. Um, so yeah, so this is a song that I wrote. It's called Railroaded. I wrote this back in, I want to say June. And this sort of summarizes the past, like, at least 2 years of my life of traveling from 2023 to 2025. Um, there is parts of it that cover other stuff, but basically, the song grew out of, I was listening to Blonde on Blonde, and um, Stuck Inside a Mobile with the Memphis Blues again came on, and there's that great verse in it that's like, "Well, Mona tried to tell me stay away from the railroad line, stay away from the train line, because all those railroad men drink up your blood like wine." And I said, "Oh, I didn't know that, but there's only one I've met, and he just smoked my eyelid, or he just smoked my eyelid and punched my cigarette." Yeah, something like that. Anyways, that verse really stuck out to me because, like, then I was starting to think about it, and I was like, yeah, I have had these like weird connections in my life with like various railroad men. Um, and so I was like, it'd be kind of funny to write to Mona to be like, well, I didn't take your advice yet again. Um, and so I just thought it was kind of a fun jumping off point. Because one of the things about Bob Dylan that like I really enjoy is that like listening to his music, especially like that '60s period where he's going from folk into like rock and roll into country music. At the end of it, like that just always sparked me into writing stuff. Like, I remember taking the train from Conway back to Liverpool, and I was listening to, I think, Highway 61 Revisited at the time. And I was on the train and I just started writing stuff down because, like, that's just what happens. I don't know, Bob Dylan triggers my brain into, like, writing stuff. And so, yeah, so this song is called, it's called Railroaded. And it's sort of like to Mona, as in this idea of like, yeah, I didn't listen to you again. But like the story behind it is, like I grew up in a place called Prince Edward County. Sir John A. Macdonald, the country's first prime minister, grew up here briefly. He practiced law here briefly. I went to school above where he actually spent time living as a kid for a little bit. And yeah, it's right by like the ferry dock, which is also just below the sort of like cliff edge where the school was that I went to. And then uh, in 2017, I took Via Rail I took the Canadian from Toronto out to Vancouver. That was a really cool trip. That was part of like Canada 150. I'd never actually seen a lot of the country that we went through, and that was actually really cool to do and to see and to experience. And then when I was living in Montreal, I drove out to Vancouver twice, once in the winter, once in the summer. And along the way, I did some like other stops and stuff. And so this song is trying to be me kind of like summarizing all of that stuff. And then learning later on that like I actually have like family who worked for railroads and worked for like railway units and stuff like that in like the Great War and before the Great War and all that stuff. And so like, there's kind of these like vague connections to all that stuff in here. It's a very vague song. I didn't try to make it as like hyper detailed as you probably could. But yeah, so like it starts off with that jumping point from like talking to Mona and being like, yeah, I didn't listen to you. But then it like kind of takes on this own like flavor. So I've been trying to rework this sort of like actual strumming pattern that I used for it into being something more like that sort of style. So it kind of takes on like almost like a Willie Nelson flavor in the strumming, to me at least. And it kind of has this like Stan Rogers and like Willie Dunn sort of thing going on to it, to me at least, because it's kind of like a historical song, if you will, even though it's a very personal song. And both of those, if you don't know, are Canadian musicians, so you should probably check out. And yeah, so this is, without further ado, I guess this is Railroad. This is just a song that I wrote today. So, well, Mona, oh Mona, it happened again. I followed the path of that railway man. I grew up in his home and took the tracks from Toronto to Montreal again till I found myself Coney Island. Well, what can be done? I can't change the past. Buy back the time that's gone so fast. So do me a favor, reel in what's been tossed, 'cause I'd like to see you before I get lost. Went a peg to the lake of the woods, up to Batosh with a gift of mud. Then through the Cypress hills we drove on that dirt track Rancher's Road, till finally we saw the coast. Oh, what can be done? I can't change the past. Buy back the time that's gone so fast. Do me a favor, reel in what's been tossed, 'cause I'd like to see you before I get lost. Then I crossed the border in a twist of fate, but my timing was off and I missed our date. Found myself at 8:38. They took me off to a different place and went from Paris to eat. Well, what can be done? I can't change the past. About the time that's gone so fast. Do me a favor, reel in what's been tossed, 'cause I'd like to see you before I get lost. Well, file this one under misconnections, despite my most earnest corrections to that bridge's faulty erection. My compass spun in all directions. I couldn't make any elections in my supposed resurrection. Well, what can be done? I can't change the past. Buy back the time that's gone so fast. Do me a favor, reel in what's been tossed, 'cause I'd like to see you before I get lost. Yeah, what can be done? I can't change the past. Buy back the time that's gone so fast. Do me a favor, reel in what's been tossed, 'cause I'd like to see you before I get lost. Yeah, what can be done? I can't change the past. Buy back the time that's gone so fast. Do me a favor, reel in what's been tossed, 'cause I'd like to see you before I get lost. So yeah, so I have some work to do on like learning how to play that strumming pattern better, but that's the song that I wrote about that. And yeah, for me it's just a very personal song. It's kind of vague in parts, and you don't really have to understand a lot of it. It's kind of just a cataloging of places that I went over the past, like, I don't know, 10-ish years. But yeah, anyways, have fun out there.